Hello everyone, welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. This is Nareen and it is time for Friday Findings. So this Friday Findings, I do have two very interesting articles. One happens to be a little more research based, and of course this is very interesting research, so you will probably learn a little bit. I mean, I definitely did. So yes, please do, you know, um, learn that in the first article that I talk about. And of course, the second article is a little more social based, talking about really pretty much giving the viewpoint of someone that is very important in the field of multiple sclerosis, especially when we are talking about India as a country. Um, so there is plenty to discuss, and I do hope that you are very um, hopefully you're very interested in learning these things. Now, the first thing I do want to say is that the links to the articles are going to be in the description section of this video, so you can absolutely check out the articles and find out more information in the case that I missed out anything while discussing these articles. But of course, apart from that, do share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences in regards to what I might have talked about, and what pretty much resonated with you when I was talking about these articles, so that we can get a conversation started, and then of course learn a little bit more about what we are talking about. So without further ado, why don't we start with article number one? So, article number one is actually a very interesting article. It's regarding researchers who actually found something that may explain why some people actually experience a lot more brain damage, a lot more, uh, disability with MS compared to others. And this pretty much has to deal with how our brain functions and what ends up happening within our brains that may or may not lead to uh, our disease maybe doing more than others. So, what was this study about? So, this study involved scientists from universities in the Netherlands who pretty much, I think it was Netherlands, maybe Sweden, I mean, one of those two. But it pretty much concerned them actually looking at brains of 33 deceased MS patients, um, all of whom had donated their brains to you know science, just for us to actually get better help as a result. um, I'm thinking I'd probably do the same thing, but of course the one thing that they found was that in the brain, especially in the brain cells, there are certain cells in your brain called the microglia. Now, the microglia pretty much work um, like a waste management system for your brain, and so they pretty much regulate all of the waste that is created in your brain, treat it, and then eliminate the waste from your brain. Now, what people found in patients who actually had reportedly a much higher disability and a much faster disability was that there were literally fat droplets in the microglia. What does this mean? This means that all of the myelin that is being damaged, that was picked up by the microglia, and unfortunately, because the microglia was not able to process all of the damaged myelin in time, it pretty much overloaded the waste management system, and as a result, um, the cells pretty much had these fat droplets in it. I think they called it fuzzy microglia or something similar to that. Now, me being a waste management engineer, and I think I've mentioned that multiple times, or probably I've mentioned it pretty much every week at least once. One of the things that is very important, especially when we are discussing waste management, is the fact that there is a certain speed that we have to conduct waste management in, right? A lot of times what ends up happening is, let's say there is a too much waste being generated or not enough waste being generated. In either case, there are certain um, there are certain protocols that are taken in place so that we can ensure that no no parts, no machinery actually gets damaged as a result of a change in the flow of waste coming in. So, but of course, over here, one thing that we are seeing is that there is an overloading of waste. And unlike, a waste management system outside where we do have certain things like holding tanks that can pretty much store any excess waste that is coming at any point for a later time when, there is less waste coming in, so that any excess waste can pretty much get treated. Then one of the funny things is, in your brain there are no holding tanks, or our brains obviously haven't developed to that level. And apart from that, of course, a lot of times what is happening is, even if our brains had the ability to let's say treat a certain amount of waste fat cells that are being created because your myelin is getting attacked. um, Obviously for some people that ends up being a little too fast, it ends up being a little um, too much, and as a result the microglia cannot uh, treat all of the damaged myelin fast enough. And of course, there are huge results that come out of a um, a research like this. First of all, it can definitely look at, it will definitely allow some people to not only do more research on this, but more so than that, pretty much look for ways that we can definitely ensure that we are able to slow down any progression of MS by pretty much implementing something that will make it a little easier for us. Now, considering that this is a very small part of all the things that the brain cells do, right? I mean, think, for one thing, right, the last thing we want to think about in our brain is that yes, there is a waste treatment system that also works. And of course, with people who are experiencing very quick, very large amounts of disability in a very short time, obviously their system is a lot more overrated than other people. So this is, of course, the first article that I did want to share with you. This is a very interesting article, so I do want your thoughts on this. I do want your insights on this, and let's see where this research actually takes us and what kind of new treatments that come out as a result of you know this this research being conducted. So that was article number 1. Now let's continue on with article number 2. So in article number 2, now this one I actually found it very interesting because this is something that is really talking about the state of society here, and of course awareness of something like MS. So this article actually focuses on an interview done with the person who started the Multiple Sclerosis Society of India, or MSSI. Now, MSSI as an organization for um, you know people with multiple sclerosis actually started in 1985. So as you can imagine, 41 years have passed since its starting. But of course, the starter of the founder of this society has claimed that regardless of 40 over 40 years passing since this organization was created, and of course a lot more people actually getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, awareness of multiple sclerosis still seems to be very, very low here. In fact, the one thing I think they said was that it is still frozen in time. And regardless of the number of ways or pretty much the availability um, of places where people can actually get diagnosed, right? And when I say this, I am of course talking about the fact that there are so many more diagnostic centers nowadays. There definitely are a lot of centers that offer MRIs, and of course, as we all know, MRIs are probably one of the easiest ways to pretty much find out that you have multiple sclerosis. Apart from that, this article also talks to two other patients of multiple sclerosis. One that was not aware that they had multiple sclerosis or were not diagnosed for about 7 years before they were actually correctly diagnosed to have MS. Of course, something like that can put a huge strain on your body, right? Being able to last for 7 years experiencing all of the symptoms and unfortunately not knowing why you are experiencing these symptoms. Meanwhile, they also talk about to someone who was actually a lot um, diagnosed a lot quicker, and what ended up happening as a result of them experiencing that, right? For me, I would say that I was experiencing MS symptoms for maybe, I want to say, one year for sure, but I'd say it was closer to the 2 year mark. But the thing is, it was a very slow progression. So by the time I hit the end of that 2 year mark, suddenly there were definitely places the where MS definitely sped up, and as a result, I was still able to get the proper diagnosis at a very early stage in my disease. But unfortunately, that is not the case with a lot of people. And of course, one of the things that is very important is, of course, a raised awareness for multiple sclerosis. Um, Another thing I do want to say is that yes, I mean, I pretty much did create this YouTube channel to raise awareness. But unfortunately, as my footprint is rather small right now. So I do hope that if there is anything that I do create, and it actually resonates with you, you can definitely share it with your friends, your family, anyone else that might actually benefit from any information I have to share. Or if you think that there are better ways I can do to raise awareness for this disease, you can definitely share it in the comments, and I will definitely make sure after we have the conversation that I do put that into use. So that is so yes, please do share your thoughts, your insights, maybe even your experiences as to talking to people, um, and they probably have no idea of what MS is. And one of the funny things is, when I do talk to people and I generally tell them that I do have multiple sclerosis, their first question is, what is that? Right? They are able to see that I do have problems walking, I do have problems reading, doing a lot of things like that. But still, apart from that, I would say that generally, um, one of the things is, yes, awareness for this disease is, of course, much lower than I would have preferred. But one of the good things is that if you do end up starting a conversation, I'm pretty sure you can definitely get more people aware of this disease, and there can be much larger benefits that do come up in place in the future as a result of more people being aware of MS. So that was article number 2. And so I do hope that you have learned something. Of course, you can always read the article that and I will pretty much attach the link of the article in the in the description section of the video. So yes, you can read it over there. Please give your comments so that we can have that conversation. But as I want to end this segment, this was article number 2. So what did you think of the 2 articles that I shared today? So I definitely think that both of these articles did have a lot of things to share. They definitely are very unique articles in their own sense, but I'd say they do share a lot of important information, right? Something that can definitely not only help future patients in on the medical side, but also on the awareness or the societal side. So that there are definitely a lot more people aware of MS. There are a lot of people that can understand that MS does look different for a lot of people. And finally, that if we do give everyone the right time, the right guidance, there will be a lot more benefit that we can actually get out of uh, you know uh, talking about MS, pretty much doing this kind of research for MS, and finally raising that awareness for MS. But of course, with that said, I know this is Friday, so I do hope that you have a great weekend planned. One of the sad parts about this weekend is that, yes, my sister is going to be leaving towards the end of this weekend, but it was great having her here. And I do want to also share that, yes, considering it is the weekend, you also have planned a lot of rest that you probably need from doing everything throughout this week. So I do want to hear um, your thoughts and your plans on that as well, so we can even have a conversation regarding that. But of course, with all of that said, this is Naren's Life with MS. I am Naren, and here is me wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.